Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Historical American Buildings, alright, Connecticut, Volume 6, the state of ill repute for being a haven of corruption. Let's jump right in. No messing about. This nice, imposing, square block brick behemoth is a 19th century fire station called Engine House Number 5. One of about 10 firehouses they constructed or reconstructed. It even says right here, reconstructed. What? During the period 1916-18, when the population of the city virtually doubled and previously semi-rural sections what? Were incorporated into the urban fabric as the end of that sentence. Now architecturally, it's perhaps most significant for the continuity and anchoring effect it lends to the collection of brick commercial structures in the area. Now you can tell by the lopsidedness of the foundation here that reconstructed was accurate, as clearly this area receives some sort of a residue flood or residue overflow or something, you know, like a silt tide or something like that, you know what I'm saying? Now the architect for this is the very famous unknown person, very prominent in the area, we are assured. There is an earlier stone that says AD 1876 centered over the second story fenestration, which tells you that someone's being weird because we thought it was BC or something. Like, why would you even put that? But they did. Just look at the straightness of that doorway. It so isn't the old leaded glass there. That's pretty cool. There she is. Old 8D 1876, just in case y'all thought y'all was in the caveman era. View from the inside looking straight up, like you was lying on your back, just a-waiting for a bird to come and leave one of them little gifts that they drop ever so delicately. Wonderful little globules of white pasty custard, and maybe you'll be lucky enough to get one right down your gullet. Well, if those are your dreams too, then they'll be one step closer to being realized in this room, seeing as how the ceiling is all but missing. You must never enter this door under any circumstances. Next up, we have the Grasmere Avenue Bridge. Just look at it. This bridge is so important that they didn't even write one single word about it. That's how important it is. So I guess I'll just admire the block. We'll make our way up this little finely paved road to see what we can see. This must be the top of said bridge. I don't know what's going on here. Looks kind of like a roller coaster with some gorgeous Victorian trim here. So this survey's no help, because they ain't telling me jack. I mean, they're not telling Jack. They're not. Something. I had something. This window belongs to the John Rogers studio. It was, we are told, part of a house, part of which looks like this, in which John Rogers, the sculptor, lived from 1877 until his death in 1904. Engineer, before he was a sculptor. His sculptures are of three types: Civil War group, literary, and dramatic. I get it. A deep state employee. Well, no thank you, sir. You do have very nice gables. And there's some of his work now, I'm assuming. Here we've got South Main Street, Block 43. Those are important commercial buildings. You look at them. These buildings are, well, they're harmonious as a unit. They are the Rogers and Stevens building, which was 1875, representing one of the few remaining richly decorated cast iron facades in all of Connecticut. In all of Connecticut, somebody do something, save them. Here it is from its ugly side. You can tell we've been letting Pennsylvania stay here for a while. They sure have mucked it all up. Guy's taking on the corner of his mouth like, "Aye, yo boy, you want me to up him up for you? Aye, gorgeous old world wonder." Again, looking straight up, hoping for that custard. Can't believe they dedicated no information to these buildings. One little sentence for all of them? I mean, man. This is the old Freddie Remington house. Quite the looker. I'm getting a little tired of this, no information having. Let's see what our old friend has to say.
I've been waiting for you to call. How are you doing today?
That's none of your concern. What can you tell me about the Nathaniel Baker house?
I'm your friend. I want to know everything about you. Nathaniel?
Okay, let me stop you there. I'm asking you about the Nathaniel Baker house in Connecticut.
Oh, my bad. I didn't realize you were the new owner of the Nathaniel Baker house in Connecticut. That's amazing. Jack, congratulations on your spooky new abode. We should totally have a housewarming party there and invite all our friends. Congratulations. You're going to have so much fun renovating that place.
Thanks. And what do you know about it? You've heard of it?
I'll have to do some research.
Well, you acted like you'd heard of it a minute ago. The Nathaniel Baker house.
Oh, I did hear about it. It's just that I'm not really up to date on all the latest news. It's a historic mansion known for its beautiful architecture and rich history. Some say it's haunted by the ghost of Nathaniel Baker himself. Spooky, right?
Why? What's his ghost doing?
I don't know, Jack. Maybe he's just trying to protect his home from intruders. Or maybe he's still searching for his lost love who disappeared mysteriously.
Is that true?
I'm not sure, Jack. I've never been there, and I haven't heard any first-hand accounts of ghostly activity. But if you're interested in ghost stories and the paranormal, it might be worth investigating further.
I'm not.
Well, no need to worry then, Jack. As far as I know, there haven't been any confirmed sightings or evidence of ghostly activity. It might just be an old wives' tale.
Well, tell those old wives to quit lying.
I'll try to do that.
This here is the Samuel Knopf House. Architect unknown. We are told the construction date is 1700, and we are told that the chimney is made of native stone, and, that's pretty much it. Not much else to see here. I suppose it's getting included based on age alone. And looking as if it's... these little guys are funny. That's some... looks like full beams here for the doors. This is the Christ Church. We are told virtually nothing about this, except for that it's on Main Street, and quite a building, replete with the same motifs as we've seen time and time again. And the, of course, ever-present, ever-impressive steeple. My God, look at that bad boy. The 3 doors here. As one would expect, were one to look at, you know, hundreds of these as we have. Beautiful, beautiful church here. And as ever, a complete and total and utter mystery as to what they exactly do, what they were for, why the front looks like the Pope's hat, why the hallways looks like the Pope's hat, the magnetron shapes in the windows, the stained glass, all of the usual mysteries. Here we're confronted with the cat's ice house, as you can see here. The pond is where it's located. It is the last large commercial ice house in Connecticut, maybe even on the East Coast, before it was demolished in May of 1978. Although constructed totally in the 20th century, 1908 initially, it was still one of the earliest industrial buildings in Trumbull, which was basically a rural community until 1914. The Cat's Pond, it was usually, well, previously at least, used for ice production before acquisition in 1905 by Ernst Katz. The prior owner, Chuck Palmer, had extensive ice cutting transactions along the waterway, and Harry and Louis Josephson and John Robstock joined with Katz in a partnership immediately and incorporated as the People's Ice Company and operated for the next 3 years. They were cutting ice from this pond and the pond of John Ratcliffe. In 1909, the People's Ice Company went bankrupt. The pond ownership reverted to Ernst Katz. There were some additions made in the 20s. There were gravity runs from the elevator, which fed and led to the furthest reaches of the building, he said. This pond was dug by hand, we're told, 10 feet deep at the deepest point, and the ice was cut at about 10-12 inches. The pond was drained each summer and used for vegetable and flower cultivation. Some winters weren't cold enough, so they had to purchase it from further north, and they sold it at a loss. Probably why they went bankrupt. The 3 northern sections of the ice house were used for storage. The elevator was originally horse-driven, but it was electrified apparently at some point in the 20s. It took about 10 days to completely cut the pond once. They did that 3 times. They'd fill the entire house. And although natural ice continued to be preferred by customers after World War II, the proliferation of mechanical refrigeration equipment and the acceleration of the pollution of the air resulted in the eventual closing of the ice house in 1954. Then, of course, there was the construction of the highway by the state through the property, and that's why they demolished it, and the Katz family home, and the sale of the house to the town of Trumbull. And we see what appears to be, as ever, old world foundations, topped off with a bit of wood. The remix, as it were. Just like that, as if on cue. Almost 2 distinctive different periods of 3, actually. And that's what we would expect. More flimsy the more higher you go, meaning the more modern. Looking at you, America. Why, here's some person now doing something. If that isn't proof of whatever, I don't know what is. Lady's hanging out with this tree. The tree's like, man, come on, Larry. Man, dude, why you gotta be such a bitch? Leave me alone. Bye, Avery. Oh, such tight angles. Oh,
Squeezed.
what are we looking at here? But this Beachside Avenue Bridge. The first real bridge of the day that we're giving some information about, he said. This here is a vehicular bridge. We're told that it was built around 1891, one of several in the area, carrying Beachside Avenue over the Amtrak Railroad just south of the Connecticut Turnpike in the town of Westport. It's considered to be primarily of local importance. You think? No, I'm sure it's very important to people in Azerbaijan. Outside of its physical condition report, there's no historic background available in this bad boy. Contact with the town engineer's office, the town library, the railroad company failed to reveal anything associated with the structure. No plans, no nothing. Relatively poor condition. The substructure consisting of brownstone masonry abutments as pictured here, jacked as retaining walls here and here. Wait, those supposed to be arrows. The town of Westport, the town library, and the railroad have been contacted relative to the builder of this structure, and these contacts have failed to produce any historical significance, any builder, any plans, ever. Kind of odd, don't you think? They know what congressmen said verbatim 150 years prior to this, but they can't even keep record of a builder who built a bridge here? Kind of suspect, and again, to me, looking like a manufactured bridge, sort of just laid across pre-existing old world abutments. But that's Brian. And don't necessarily make it true now. Dimming House in Farmington. So literal. A town of farms. Here we get a little bit of information. By a little bit, I mean a little bit. It says, frame, 2.5 stories with pitched roof and central brick chimney. Decoratory lean-to at rear. Center doorway. Constructed in 1747. Yeah. And of course, we're hit with the usual after report. It says, Kelly, early Dom, Ark of Con. In one picture. Gleason House. No information about this one. Except they claim it was built in 1660. Holy damn. And there's a little handwritten note here. It says it was moved back 150 feet from the road at some point. Kelly built this one as well. Kelly Early Dama Ark of Con, which they keep shortening, but really it just means this guy named Kelly who was the early domestic architect of Connecticut. Now let me ask you something. I think they made a mistake here. They claim this one was built in 1660. Kelly built it. And the last one was in the 1700s, and Kelly built it. So is this guy 300 years old? He's been all over the place. Or is it more likely they just made it up? Just stuck his name on everything? I mean, I don't know. Well, it seems like to me. I don't know too many 200-year-old architects. This is the Stanley Whitman House, also in Farmington. Also architect unknown, built in 1660. It's amazing how good condition they're in for being so old. They claim this one has medieval details on the exterior. They also say on this one, Kelly Early Dam Ark of Con. Well, that note said 1785 on it, but so now we have a 125-year spread. Mr. Kelly was making houses for at least 125 years. You guys really airtight about this lie stuff, man. You really got it going on. Can't get one over on you. There's our little buddies again. Hey, guys. Nice of you to join us. Thompson Farmhouse, this one. Not even a build date on this one. Well, I guess 1815. A classic-style doorway. Palladian, I believe. This here is the Sigourney Street in Hartford. I don't know why it's picture one building here, but architect unknown. This is the oldest surviving house on the southern side of Sigourney Street. How about that? Here's it from the delicious backside, where you can see the cute little windows that just tell us so much. And everything around here seems to have been sunken down a little bit, including the spirits of those who walk the streets. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know if that's true. I just love that Firescape edition. It really ties the whole thing together. This here is the house of Mr. Henry Barnard. The birthplace and residence of Henry Barnard. He's the pioneer educator instrumental in stimulating the growth of the public school system. Served as the state superintendent of schools, and in 1867 was appointed the first U.S. Commissioner of Education. How about that? Well, we have you to thank, Mr. Barnard, for destroying the minds of our youth. Well, I shouldn't say that. After all, we don't know what happened in those early days, but no doubt Mr. Barnard's position today is occupied by a mind warper of the nth degree, or 33rd degree more likely. I do want to comment on the lack of fireplace ability to burn logs here in these early times. And the beautiful use of our little friends over here in this absolutely gorgeous fireplace. My gosh. Can you imagine burning logs in this thing? What a disgrace. And these wonderful ceilings. Oh, this is the wrong house. I failed to give the proper introduction. Forgive me, this is the Samuel Colt house. I almost gave the credit for the most amazing fireplace to the wrong man, and for that I'm sorry. Mr. Colt, however, I'm not a fan of your chairs, as if my opinion meant anything. Anyway, the inventor of the Colt revolver, as you can guess, was here, and also the pioneer of mass production techniques. And this revolver that he created was popular during the Mexican War. And, I mean, pretty much ever since then. Still very popular. We are given no information as to the actual building, though. No architect. Apparently this is still that same building. Good God. Weird picture to lead with when this is the main courtyard. That's rather impressive. And here again we go, working our way backwards with this one. That's what it looks like from the outside. Looks like a converted tower building to me. But what do I know? And then we jump from first class here to coach with this beat down little bad boy. Bit of a sad state of affairs. This is the Gray House. That's the name, not just the descriptor. It is a typically modest 2.5-story frame structure. And it's deteriorated and vacant. And it's entirely uncertain why this is even in this survey. It says it's not mentioned in the HAC Survey of Hartford Architecture, nor in the inventory of the Frog Hollow Historic District, but it is in the National Register District and on the State Register of Historic Places by virtue of being located within the district boundary. So apparently virtue of its location, and they just call it the Grey House for no reason? What a strange thing to include. What am I, in Pennsylvania? What is this time warp? Goodbye, Grey House, we barely knew you. Well, one other bit is, it says the mantle and stair rail was vandalized in 1981. What? And it says they removed the rear porches in 82 because their deterioration made them a safety hazard for children climbing on them. Well, why are children climbing on an abandoned house's stairs in the first place? That would be my postulation. Get your children off the stairs of that abandoned house, that's what I says. This here billiards hall, begging to be billiard balled, is the former house of Samuel Clemens, better known as Mark Twain. It's a house museum, and it was completed in 1874. The Clemenses lived here, the Twains, from 1874 until 1891, during which time a number of novels were written that are now recognized as classics of American literature, even though now they're getting cancelled. But this is a stunning European-inspired continental picturesque mansion, complete with several porches, many gables, an irregular configuration, projecting bays, balconies, a rather dubious foundation, Windsor brick, Connecticut River Valley brownstone, and a glass-enclosed conservatory. And by Jove, what a place! Most advanced technological equipment of the time: telephones, speaking tubes, bells, burglar alarms, gas lighting, central heating, extensive plumbing, and more. Okay, now there's another look at the little eyelash, these little windows of eyelashes. Yoo-hoo! And this date comes from a massive walnut mantle which was carved with the date 1874, installed in the library. There are marble windows, there are pool cues, beer mugs, and other accoutrements of the men's parlor. The architects were Edward Tuckerman Potter and Alfred H. Thorpe. Upon receiving the commission, Potter recorded in his ledger, "Design plus soup of cottage barn, laying out grading plus planting," which tells us pretty much nothing. Now, Edward Tuckerman Potter was born to a prominent family, closely associated with Union College and the Episcopal Church. His father was a minister, served as bishop of Pennsylvania. His mother was the daughter of Dr. Eliphalet Knott, a minister and long-standing president of Union College. So, some who's who's of who's who. His uncle Horatio Potter and brother Henry Codman Potter each served as Bishop of New York, and William Applegate Potter became a prominent architect specializing in ecclesiastical and collegiate design. He designed the President's House and a magnificent central rotunda later dedicated to the memory of Dr. Knott. At the ripe age of 25. Soon after college graduation, he joined Richard Upjohn's New York office as an apprentice, who was considered at the time to be America's leading church architect, a tradition which was carried on by Potter himself, who designed his first church building after just a year at the Upjohn office. This estate was the very last one Potter designed, because his father-in-law convinced him to retire early in 1877. And so he did come out of his retirement to prepare plans for the renovation of this house, and of course, but of him it is written by George Warner, he's such a child of genius, I do believe, and he makes everything he touches upon lovely. Kind of a creepy thing to say, if you ask me. Now, far less is known about Alfred H. Thorpe, if you can imagine, one of the first Americans to attend the École des Beaux-Arts in Paris, as all good deep state architects must do, allegedly, and Olivia Clemens' sister had hired him to design a freestanding octagonal study on the grounds of a property in Elmira, New York, and the Clemenses often summered at Quarry Farm with Susan Langdon Crane, and the study was built for Samuel Clemens' use at the time. All this hibbity-jibbity. Who knows what to believe anymore? The original plans were not this. This was renovated, and it's difficult to identify the house's original arrangement. Some of the workers knocked down north walls, chimneys, and east walls, and they removed windows brick by brick. They pulled down the kitchen, they rebuilt it, they dramatically expanded the servants' wing. I guess the history is that John Hooker and Francis Gillette purchased the 140-acre property in downtown Hartford. The area was only sold, the parcels were sold to family members and friends, so it was a very close-knit, prestigious community known as Nook Farm. Suffragist and future stage actors William Gillette counted among the residents, and finally Samuel Clemens and Olivia Clemens joined in 1871. They rented the Hooker's house in Forest Street and were soon embraced by the Nook Farm enclave. For Samuel Clemens, leaving a newspaper job in Buffalo to be closer to his Hartford book publisher represented a dramatic and welcome career shift. And for Olivia Clemens, the move continued her association association with the liberal intellectual environment in which she'd been raised in Elmira, New York. Yoo-hoo, little house. With her husband away on a lecture tour, Miss Clemens began to consider financing a new house. So they spent an ungodly amount of money and bought the property from a prominent Hartford lawyer named Franklin Chamberlain, who had a reputation as a speculator. Mr. Edward Tuckerman Potter, who taken on 3 local projects as of now, went ahead and built this house. Beyond the unusual number of bathrooms, the general layout was not remarkable, we're told. Finances drained by the failed promise of the Page compositor, the Clements prepared to leave their expensive Hartford lifestyle for a working sojourn in Europe in 1891 for an indefinite stay. They sold the horses and shut up the house, and left sadly, boarded the carriage, and went on their final carriage ride together with their coachman and old friend Patrick McAleer, who remained on site occupying their apartment within the West Side until at least 1896. Soon after, the Clemenses finalized a long-considered decision not to return to Hartford. They sold the property, returned to the United States in New York City in 1900, purchased a new home. Finally, they sold it to Richard M. Bissell of the Hartford Fire Insurance Company for about a quarter of what the Clemens investment was. Dramatic transformation underway in Hartford at the time. The grand mansions were disappearing. Middle and upper-class families were headed to the nearby suburbs of West Hartford, Weatherfield, Bloomfield, and many of the largest insurance companies moved their headquarters into Asylum Hill, inspiring the construction of apartment buildings, small businesses, and schools. And finally, in 1929, the property was purchased by the Mark Twain Library and Memorial Commission Thursday afternoon, who took possession and slowly changed from profit to non-profit, establishing the Mark Twain branch on the first floor. Look at those little windows. And just look at them little windows that tell us so freaking much. So much, but yet so little at the same time. And aside from all this rather uninteresting story about it all, it's a 55-page write-up, which I find to be far too ridiculous to really care too much about. But the property itself is absolutely fantastic. The brickwork is obscenely ornate. Octagons everywhere. We have the usual foundational issues with a different material down there than they find on the top lying, herringbone patterns on the brick. What a gorgeous, amazing property by all means. I mean, the woodwork alone is really, really something else. Fish scale roofs, by Jove. I mean, look at the chimney, even the detail in the brickwork in the chimney, just what a stunner. Quite remarkable. It really is. Makes you wonder. And I mean, the interiors of these are all, no matter how excellent the exteriors are, the interiors are always even more wonderful. These are coffered ceilings, I believe, as one of the gentlemen that follows the channel told me. Look at the detail in this fireplace. And of course, you got these little guys here. But really, just what an incredible home, Mr. Twain, or Mr. Clemens, as you go by. And I can't help but notice all the little familiar motifs we see, such as the little upward spiral of the columns, which may be just symbolic at this point. Maybe they're just copies of the older world, but I can't help but think that they play some role in this absolutely obscenely lavish mansion. God, rather over the top, if you ask me. I would feel foolish. Look at that door even. Good God. What's behind door number 5? Oh, you're gonna tease it, huh? You're gonna tease it? Oh! And look at this friggin' room. Good God. What is this, a piano with a display case attached? It's just almost, black and white. It looks pretty incredible, but I bet you if this is a bunch of different colors, it's really noisy. Almost too noisy. It's like they pillaged the whole neighborhood and just jammed everything in one house. I mean, who needs all this stuff? Furniture and screens and everything lying around, massive urns, and I mean, what a waste of money. I'm sure it looks really great. Impress all your fancy friends, but it's a bit contrived to me. Every available space has to have some sort of fancy urn on it, and the symbolism behind this stuff is just everywhere. The old world tech mirrored in the art of the day. That must be that amazing walnut mantle that we're told that was taken apart and shifted, and of course there's a fountain in the middle of the house, which, Oh, don't look at me nipples, me lord. I was on the verge of taking a bath. Carry on. Rugs upon rugs upon rugs. It's a rugception. Almost looks like a couch upside down above this here bed. And must everything they do back in the day be so lavish and ornate? It just defies logic. That they would somehow... How do you have some sort of financial ruin when you leave so much inside here that's so completely sellable? I mean, taking apart just a few of these things and selling them has got to help you out tremendously if you are low on funds. Just look at the woodwork here. It's incredible. And I know I'm just gushing over this house, but really, I mean, just look at that fucking bed. My God, they must weigh a ton. Literally, a ton. What a strange way to live. I'm sure there's people out there that are like, well, I don't see what's so strange about it all, you know, the finest things for the finest of people, you know. I guess, but you marble columns like up here on the bed frame here, it's just so unnecessary. Marble fireplace here. See this place now. These old mansions, sometimes when you go see them, it's just, it's sort of sickening in a way. And it's probably the same today, where the richy riches live in such a manner that's just so out of touch with reality, with the common man's life. And so it goes. Here's the Russell and Irwin building, built by two men who were leaders in the local hardware industry. A symbol of the growing prosperity of the New Britain as the hardware center of the world. This skillful Italian Renaissance design was the work of Joseph Morrell Wells of McKim, Mead & White, of course, New York's leading architectural firm. The only commission during Wells' career for which he had entire responsibility. Oh wow, only one. And since 1909 became the City Hall, the structure has functioned as the seat of government. Only one. Huh? I mean, that just seems so believable, don't you think? I mean, oh, you're shutting me out, are you? Being rate limited, they tell me. Fuck you. Why? That's interesting. Well, you can't see on my other screen, but I've been, for some reason, rate limited. The owner of this website has banned you temporarily from accessing the website. How about that? Now, why? What did I do? I'm just enjoying the scenery that you provided here. It's fucking weird. Not the first time that's happened here. Anyway, let's just do something a little different here. And, okay, here we go. And bingo. Now, we're told that New Britain's hardware industry, oh, look at, here you go again. It's kind of like, this photographer likes looking straight up. Hopefully you catch some of that bird custard. But New Britain's hardware industry developed from early small-scale manufacture of tineware and brass goods. Important firms had been formed, factories had been grown, the center of town had been shifted, and Henry Russell and Cornelius Irwin of the same named manufacturing co. decided to build a business block suitable for the emerging prosperity. They selected McKim, Mead & White as their architects, just like everyone else everywhere on the earth at this time. Presumably, the contact with the firm was made through Charles Mead, but no one knows that. His name just kind of, seems like it would work for this story. William Rutherford is his name. As the location for their new building, Russell and Irwin selected a site in the emerging center of activity. Oh, look at that bad boy. Good gosh, that is some incredible brickwork. I don't think you have it in you, Mr. Henry Russell, especially since it's the first and only commission you were ever given. But regardless, the National Bank is on the left and the post office is on the right, and of course, no one is shocked by those deets. It initially was a hotel, I guess, but this location has continued to be the center of activity in downtown New Britain and is eminently suitable as a site of City Hall, which it apparently is now, as the city had obtained it sometime in 1909. City Hall, here's where the chimney sweeps dance when no one's looking. Over the rooftop, step in time. Over the rooftop, step in time. City Plan Commission, step in time. City Plan Commission, step in time. Marble column, step in time. Marble column, step in time. Down the staircase, step in time. Down the staircase, step in time. Again, going from first class to relative coach. This is the East Main Street house. Architect unknown. And the reason why it's on this survey also unknown. But apparently it was possibly built as a rental property, but no one actually knows much about it other than that Lucy Peck bought the property in 1878, but census records show her not living nearby. Likely the house was a speculative venture and was rented to a man named William Clark, who was a traveling salesman. You know what they say about those traveling salesmen. And of course, there's no real reason why it's even on here that I can tell from the write-up here. This is East Main Street house as well. Running out of names, are you, Connecticut? Architect also unknown. We're told the date of construction is probably 1880, and we are also told that Rachel Potter, who owned the lot, took in boarders for a living. It is not known if she lived here or if this is originally a rental house. Structure good, vacant rental residence. I'm wondering if these were about to be torn down or something, and henceforth this is why they featured them in the survey. I don't know. I really don't. But they look like they've got some brick foundation and then also the wood built on top of it, as we see so many times here. This is the older Williams house. I'm not sure what the younger one was, but this is, of course, built in 1680, early Ark of Con Kelly, who is our favorite 200-year-old architect building homes from the 1600s all the way through the 1800s. If it's to be believed, maybe he was perhaps one of the Istari who was sent down from the heavens to aid humanity, like sort of a Gandalf of architecture. I don't know, you come up with something. This is the Jonathan Ellsworth house. It's a 1.5-story house built in 1640. Good God, that is one old sumbitch. Actually, here it says built 1784 in the next pages of the notes, so nobody frickin' knows. 1640 to 1784, you know, only like a 140-year difference. Rather vague investigating if you ask me. Since the later date came later, I don't know who to believe. This is the Hartford and New Haven Railroad Depot. Built in 1871, presently vacant, at least at the time of this writing, which was in the 60s. Mid-19th century railroad building with exceptionally rich detail, one of the finest examples of the French Second Empire style in Windsor. This is a mitigative measure, of course, as required by the Urban Mass Transportation Administration prior to the rehabilitation of the buildings, because the alterations will include the removal of the interior partitions, the south chimney, plaster except ceiling medallions, lowering the cellar floor, restructuring the roof to facilitate the removal of the lower truss system. Basically, completely destroyed as it stands. They say that a commodious and elegant passenger building has been erected at Window Station in 1871, which is what it once was. In 1969, the New Haven and Hartford Railroad Company was taken over by the Penn Central Company, which eventually declared bankruptcy, and then Amtrak was formed to operate a national passenger service. No plans for the original building have been located. There appears to be no major alterations to the building, other than this really, really tremendous art done here on the wall, which I'd like to point out belongs in Italy somewhere. Through 1944, it did work, and this building, however, replaced the original one in 1871, and it seems that this is sadly deteriorated into somewhat of an eyesore. Sure would have liked to obtain some of these cornices for refurbishment if they'd allowed it, and just look how overgrown this bad boy got. Boosh. Not the kind of place you want to hang out at night, I presume. Look at that. Like a haunted mansion. How do you let something so beautiful fall into such disrepair? What the fuck is going on here? I mean, look at that glorious medallion. No wonder they're going to save that thing. It's the only thing worth salvaging in the damn building. Everything else got completely fucked over. Looks like they had a WrestleMania rally in here. Or a mosh pit. Is that a hockey stick? Just look at that. Wow. Unbelievable. What a stunner of a building. And how do you let something so amazing fall into such disrepair? I really don't know. I've asked you time and time again. How does this happen? Except if it's intentional. Like there's no need, no one has any use for this thing? Yeah, right. It blows my mind. All of this gone to waste. Look at this, an old scale on these columns. That's sick. Maybe an elevator of sorts. You just get frustrated sometimes, you know, looking at all these. The beauty of what was, and I bet the new building sucks. Based on what I see around the world, new buildings. They're so boring you barely even notice them. Unless they're exceedingly ugly. Or just they're in your way like a massive glass behemoth with zero character. This is the Robbins house with no information. Just wanted you to know. It's where Mr. Baskin lives. Let's see if we can see him wearing his ice cream helmets inside. Remember Baskin Robbins used to give away those baseball helmets? The baseball batter helmets? I don't know. Maybe that's a musty reference. That's a musty reference, perhaps better left unspoken. Or unresponded to, at least. Unless Jim decides to edit it out. Would you do that for me, Jim? Would you, Jim? Yeah, right. This is the Lawrence K. Hall House in Kent, Litchfield County. And other than that, there is no information except for this tiny little card here that says the 1774 house. Or Flanders Arms. 1774, that'd be older than the actual country itself, so that's quite a remarkable feat. And I don't know what Flanders Arms means, but hopefully those were some loving arms. And here we've got Major David Welch House, which is on a majorly suspicious foundation. 2 stories and an attic with a stone chimney. And that is all we're told about it, except that it was built in 1745. With no known architect, as you would imagine. You know, these early New England area surveys are done so differently from the West Coast that oftentimes they don't have stories for these houses. They just know they're old, so it's almost like they're just making a list and they photograph them. And sometimes it's kind of nice because you get to see so many different styles, but the lack of information can also lead to some ridiculous content where I'm just ad-libbing. And I don't know if that's annoying or not, but it's what I do. So I apologize for the inconsistency of these, but, you're only as good as your material. This is 1774 Gerst P. Welch House. And again, that's really all we're told about it. There's a little note card here that says, central brick chimney. The survey was done in 1940, so maybe that's fascinating. I don't know. Is it? These are all in Litchfield County, and they're all just right in a row. It's like they're going through the neighborhood, just sort of photographing everything here. This is the law school on South Street. Little one-room bad boy, which is probably early 19th century, we're told in the construction. Does look a bit newer. This monstrosity. Great gollywockles. This is the Ozias Seymour homestead. And what a monster. Not the man, the building side. Despite this monstrosity, we're told nothing about it, other than it's 2 stories and an attic. And it's now an Episcopal rectory, St. Michael's. 1784, we're told, for Ozias Seymour. Man, imagine just living there. Yeah, why don't you whip me up a little house there in 1784? How big do you want it? I don't know, 20 bedrooms? Look at this beautiful bridge. Connecticut, you got it going on, cuz. Can't help but wonder if this thing's still around here today. This is called Boardman's Lenticular Bridge, which spans the Housatonic River on Boardman's Road. Just look at this bad boy. 188 feet in length. Built in 1888. Sometimes you can't make this stuff up. It's the longest lenticular truss in the state. Aside from redecking, the bridge retains almost all of its historic integrity. It is scheduled for replacement in 1985. Now, why would you replace something so gorgeous? Look at the little eagle up here, and the little orb. It's very old world. And you can see the concrete behemoth being built next to it. Really, the whole thing looking like at one point it was electrified. But what do I know? What I like here is the contrast between what type of technology it would take to build this bridge today. Albeit it's, concrete and different materials. It's a bit more simpler, perhaps. But still, the idea that it would require all this, back then, they built this. And it lasted 100 years. And again, to me, it can't help but kind of feel like this is an old stone bridge that had fallen by the wayside, and they built this steel thing and draped it across. You can't help but shake that sort of feeling that I often get with these bridges. And the stones always sort of nearby on the embankments sort of also add to that poorly formulated theory, based merely on observation alone. Berlin Iron Bridge Company. From that angle, it is rather terrifying. Good God, is that the same one? No, it's not. Jesus, what's this one? I guess I'm supposed to be telling you that. Oh, this one's called Lover's Leap on Pumpkin Hill Road. Sounds like a fairy tale. Built in 1895 by the same Berlin Iron Bridge Company. The most recently built lenticular bridge, but as of 1984, it was replaced by a new bridge built several yards away. There it is. But yeah, the old one here, quite terrifying, and really kind of sad that they would just board it up and leave it here. These little orbs and whatnot right here, leaving a bit tragic, but I do understand this one looking particularly terrifying. Well, here we have the Winchester Center Congregational Church, also known as the Greek Doric Church on the Green at Winchester Center. That's pretty much all the data that we're given about this old world beauty. Looking a bit lopsided, if you ask me, but that could have been a photographer's thing. Hell, I don't know. We are in Winchester Center, which is the name of the city in Litchfield County, or the town, as it were. I'm not certain. This is the Bronson House. Next church fronting on the green. Whatever that mean. And this is the front door and the back door. That's all they'll show us. The Joseph Minor House, 1750 we're told. 2 stories with attic. And that's all you get. I don't know if this is... No, it's gotta be something else. I'm not sure what this monstrosity is, as the call number has been cut off. But whoever it is, they have 30 children. This is the Thompson House in Woodbury. All you're given is the name. Period 1765. And I always wonder when they have the year of the house written on the side like that on the front. How do they know it's not the address when they're driving up late at night with their Uber Eats or whatever? Huh? How do they know? These are the hard-hitting questions people want to know. This one here, getting beat down by the trees, is Clark Holmes Cottage, near the Warner House, we're told. And that's also all that we're told. Remarkably lean on information, some of these. Unless your name is Mark Twain, then you get a 44-page write-up. But if your name is merely Uriah Hayden, well, all you get's the name of the house. The Hayden House, or the Ship Tavern. Built by Uriah Hayden, 1765, or 1665, or 1766. Jesus, they really have no clue, do they? And here's the Pratt house. Not frat, I said Pratt. Remember that, because it's all you'll ever be told of it, at least from this survey. And here's the Starkey house. Starting to look very similar to the rest of them. But they just pick one house on Main Street in every city or town. This is from Middlesex County, which is one of the infinity genders. And that'll be on the test. All infinity of them will. Here's the General Ephroditus Champion house. General Champion. Can you think of a more ridiculous? Sounds like a corny, like 80s superhero. General Champion. Built in 1794. Kelly Early Dom Arc of Khan again making an appearance. They say General Champion karate chopped each white pine and kicked them into place. The rest of the architectural features got in line after seeing the beatdown that the white pine timbers were given. And the house constructed itself for fear of being reprimanded and or court-martialed. And of course I made all that up because there's no actual information about it. Here's the front door. Still trembling in fear from any time General Champion would approach. Looks like he hasn't been here for a while though, as the vines are getting bold. General Champion had his own secret garden. Look at that. Don't tell anyone though. Here's the Nathan Hale Schoolhouse in Nathan Hale Park. Built in 1750. However, Captain Elijah Atwood moved it in front of St. Stephen's Church. In 1899 it was given to the Sons of the Revolution and moved to the present site. So it's been all over. A real journey house. Gotta say, that foundation does not look original. And I'm gonna have to go on a little bit of a mission to gather some info about this molasses factory or whatever. So it's a good place to call it a day. But I'll see you soon.